We have only 30 minutes and we need to cover some ground. I think that one of the main topics will be immediately about the WLA and the global impact of WLA. And to the panel, the first question will be, since achieving WLA designation for Korea, for MFDS, but also for others, what changes have you most strongly experienced in your specific country? And they are indirect, because they are not only on the countries that are assigned the WLA status and also in other countries. In the case of having experience dealing with countries that are still preparing for WLA, what impacts are you seeing as expectable to be there? So I'll start probably from the opposite side of the panel and go one by one.
Yes. First, thank you, MFDS. The MFDS has built assessment and verification systems aligned with the international standards. This allows Korean companies to demonstrate global level data reliability in partnerships and export discussions. As a result, safety and verification data generated in Korea can now be recognized worldwide. I think I expect this will make collaboration with global pharma companies and regulators much smoother. Thank you.
And we'll move to the next panelist.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting this great, having me, permitting me this great opportunity. As a local pharmaceutical company from an industrial standpoint, Korea's full designation as WLA is both milestone and practical opportunity. It provides objective international validation of Korea's regulatory performance, and it designed to enable regulatory alliance among authorities. Commercially, it strengthens partner confidence that Korean-made medicine meet high standards, and also regulatorily, the immediate gains are still gradual. Korea has been a PICS member, so many recognition practices were already in place. In other markets, additional local GMP inspections or verification may still be required. So, in other words, WLA raises the trust, but the day-to-day benefits depend on each importing authority's reliance or mutual recognition mechanisms. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ellen?
Yes, thanks for the question. I think from the company perspective, especially from multinational companies' perspective, these newer WLAs, we are still really assessing, right? How we can use now the new WLAs in reliance pathways. It will take a little bit of time, I think, to understand, how we can best leverage the WLAs authorities as reference NRAs. But again, I think that this is really great to have this expanded pool of reference NRAs that we can now choose from, the different considerations, and we can see that the WLA status have, in combination with participation in international collaboration activities or international regulatory collaborative pathways like Access Consortium or Project Orbis by FDA, really builds that confidence that the WLAs, especially in the region, the new WLAs in the regions, can really support the reliance pathways from other countries and expedite the regulatory approvals in the region.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And our colleague from Biologics, please.
Thank you for question. I believe there have been meaningful changes in the WHO PQ procedure following the WHO designation, such as the replacement of the on-site GMP inspection with desk assessment In addition, the sharing of the MFDS review report seems to have positively contributed to the WHO PQ team's evaluation. However, it is not enough to feel strong impact of these changes. Yesterday, it was mentioned in the yesterday's presentation. It can be proceed with the streamlined pathway. However, from the industry perspective, I hope that a shorter review period will lead to faster vaccine supply and contribute to public health. In addition, I believe that WLA designation will enhance the credibility of the MFDS among NRAs and help facilitate faster approval in overseas product legislation.
And our colleague from Thai FDA.
Yes. In the first, I want to thank you, Dr. Prakash and GHC to organize this workshop. I think I'm only a regulator in this section. So in Thailand, we since received maturity level 3 and transient WLA in 2021, and now we will prepare to for the WLA for vaccine and maturity level 3 for medicine in the next year. I think our progress is help us to improve our quality system and align our work with international standard and build stronger collaboration with other regulator, and it's also increase international task in Thai regulator oversight, which support local manufacturing and explain export and reach global market. Thank you.
Thank you so much. 2 points of clarification, and it's good that I have the colleague from Thai FDA in the panel, so she said it, not me, but Thai FDA already moving on the direction of WLA, and this is something that I can share it with the audience, that we are currently already reviewing not only TGA Australia, which is the remaining SRA, still under assessment. As you know, because it's public, PMDA MHLW was considered WLA only for 4 functions and only for medicines because of those historical reasons. And we have under review right now Anvisa from Brazil, Saudi FDA, and also Baden-Powell from Indonesia, and we hope that the submission from Thai FDA will come soon. I have also to say, because I'm in a double mission this week, that I have high expectations for the meeting with the Deputy Minister of Health of China in 2 days in Shanghai, and also the meeting I will have with the government and an MPA on Friday in Beijing. And we hope before the end of the year to have news from an MPA in terms of submission for WLA of vaccines this year, and hopefully to conclude, I would say, between 3 and 5 functions before the end of next year. So we are entering in the new dimension in which, together with MHRA UK, that still is missing 1 function, and PMDA, we will have a more heterogeneous population on WLAs. The first wave was the full WLAs, or some agencies like MFDS and HSA that were full WLAs in different steps. Now we'll see a more complex scenario, and that's why we took the precautionary measure to suggest to the Expert Committee of Standards and Pharmaceutical Products, and the same will be done with the Expert Committee on Biological Standards beginning of 2026, that the bridge pre-qualification process will be given access only for full WLAs to avoid some confusion in the process. Anyway, we are dealing with a community that will be between 40 and 45 countries in the next 3 to 5 years as WLAs, which brings already a very strong community in terms of reliance mechanisms. Remember the numbers, 68% of the member states of WHO, of the 194 member states of WHO, still don't have a minimum functional regulatory system. We hope to have positive news in the coming year, coming from countries like Zambia or Kazakhstan. Also to have supplementary good news from countries like Rwanda and Senegal for oversight of vaccines manufacturing and others. So it's an evolving ground. And at the same time, it's not only China coming to WLA, but also India and potentially South Africa and Egypt on vaccines in different multiple stages. So the process is becoming not only robust, but also more diversified and bringing people together. So one point I have to clarify, and sorry for being long, but I think it's a needed clarification on the PQ process. We are not going to wait for the end of the cycle of WLA to introduce changes in pre-qualification. We have already introduced changes in pre-qualification approved by the CSPP last week. They will be made public very soon, and this concerns the medicines component. And some of those changes consider, for example, an intermediate pathway between the full pre-qualification and the bridge pre-qualification. And that intermediate pathway will be open to mostly generic products approved by ML3 NRAs. So for the first time, we are recognizing in our procedure some differences for the countries that have already done the work in terms of benchmarking on the medicine side. We don't need to do that on the vaccine side because, as you know, it's a prerequisite to have a functional regulatory system to submit to pre-qualification because of the lot release, official lot release function. But we have, at the same time, in the last 2 years at WHO, under the leadership of Jeremy Farrar and Yukiko Nakatani, we have developed, together with 16 departments at HQ in Geneva, a process that we call the alignment process. And the alignment process, to explain it very succinctly, not taking too much time, but this is important to explain for the PQ issues. The alignment process brings on the lessons learned during COVID-19. On COVID-19, the Janssen vaccine, for example, the J&J vaccine, we had the assessment completed 2 weeks before the approval by the reference regulatory authority, which was the European Medicines Agency. And we had, because of the procedures, we had to wait for 2 weeks before we granted the emergency use listing. Paxlovid and Molnupiravir, they were not emergency use listed, they were fully pre-qualified, and we pre-qualified both products 2 hours after the publication of the clinical guidelines, because in both cases, on vaccines and medicines, we were working in parallel. So the alignment process is a political response from WHO to a major problem that we have in our system, because pre-qualification is not open. Pre-qualification is limited in terms of the clinical guidelines or decisions by the SAGE committee, in the case of vaccines, for prioritization. So normally in some areas, it takes between 4 and 7 years between the start of discussion of the clinical guidelines and the end of the pre-qualification process. The political decision already taken by the Director General, and this is under those instructions that we are moving now, is that in the future, in the near future, we should have not more than 12 months before the start of the clinical guidelines and the pre-qualification term. So this is a major revolution in terms of the organization of WHO. It has major consequences on the clinical departments in terms of having standing guideline development groups and the alignment in parallel with pre-qualification. At the same time, the example that was mentioned for the cholera vaccine in terms of the parallel assessment, we had some cases like that on situations that we consider public emergencies. We are discussing now with the member state to do a pilot process of a normal parallel assessment between an NRA and pre-qualification adopting the same principles in order to reduce the time of assessment for introduction in the market. So just to give you an idea that WLA will bring more reliance, a more robust system, but pre-qualification is not waiting for the end of WLA to introduce a number of changes that, of course, need to be validated by the constitutional expert committees of WHO, ECSPP for medicines, ECBS for vaccines. Sorry for being long, but I think it's important to complement this. The second question will be also for all of you about what you consider personally to be the most critical needs for regulatory system strengthening in this context. And we'll go reverse way, so we'll start now with our colleague from Thai FDA.
I think the most important part of strategy of regulatory system is developing our people. I need skilled, motivated, and well-trained professional staff who can make decisions based on science and international standards. That's why we focus training, staff exchange, and sharing knowledge with WHO and other regulator. And we also work with made our regulator and process simpler and more transparent, and use digital tools to online submit to use this. Thank you.
I am working for companies. I hope through active communication among the NRAs, the procedure and documentation requirement of regulatory system can be harmonized, and that the data exemption or simplification through mutual recognition can be introduced from the industry perspective. That would help reduce the time and cost offset with duplicate work.
Yes, I mean, from the perspective of a global company, I think that there are still many countries which have some administrative country-specific requirements which really do not add any values for the scientific assessment or for the review of a product. And they may be sometimes obsolete or outdated, right? These regulatory requirements, because they are over documents or over information that we now provide. So I think that we advocate that for the authorities to review this type of administrative requirements that do not add any values, and perhaps also sometimes modernize some of the regulatory processes through digitization, for example, to help streamlining the review processes and expediting approvals. I think that there have been improvements, but we still experience as a global company many challenges around this area. And then the other aspect is that for new regulatory procedures or a new pathway which is available in agencies, in the regulatory authorities, there are sometimes the difficulties to operationalize or implement really the new pathways. We have a guideline or some directions through the regulations and through guidelines, but the actual review or implementation of this new requirement or new pathways is sometimes unclear, or it's not consistent across the divisions or reviewers. So there's something that we experience as a challenge, and that could also bring some burden and delay approvals, because we need to make sure that we understand and these new requirements or pathways. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the question. From the industry point of view, achieving AA designation is a remarkable milestone, but the real challenge lies in how we translate that recognition into practical collaboration and capability building. What we need most, I believe, is continued and structured dialogue between regulators and industry. As the WLA framework expands, open communication can help ensure that new reliance or recognition mechanisms are applied constantly and effectively in real practice. This collaboration will also allow companies to better align their quality systems and the regulatory expectations from the early stage of product development. And while many in the industry hope the WLA framework will eventually lead to broader mutual recognition of GMP inspections, we also fully understand that such process must be gradual, but carefully balanced with each country's responsibility to safeguard public health. Even so, we believe Korea's full WLA status provides a valuable foundation of trust that can support future cooperation in this area. Thank you.
Yeah, my turn. I see the harmony of regulations and this level as the key to strengthening our global regulatory systems. For example, some countries are already making meaningful use of real-world data. At the same time, they are building AI governance frameworks to guide the responsible adoption of new technologies. I also believe that as regulations continue to change and become more harmonized, support and collaborations are needed so that the pharmaceutical industry can follow the standards and grow together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. An additional point there, this is not public information, but I think it's, at least for me, it's not a challenge to share it here. We have engaged recently WHO in a pilot project with the Gates Foundation, a couple of regulators and manufacturers on the use of artificial intelligence for the review of the submission of the files. There will be 3 stages. It will be a long time before it's completed. The first stage that we are concentrated is the easiest one, which is the review of the submitted documentation, just to the administrative checkout that is done when the first documentation is submitted. As you might imagine, this is a very complex process because using instruments like deep machine learning, you need to have real data, real files, and not mock-up files in order to test that. So there's a number of complexities there in terms of confidentiality of the data, data submitted by specific manufacturers. Only through independent third players like Gates and WHO it was possible to join people around the table. As I said, it will take time, but it's going on the right direction. And let me share my personal opinion. I think that stage 1 and stage 2, and stage 2 will be the first part of the assessment before the issuing of a list of questions for the manufacturers, are components of the regulatory review of products that can be automated using artificial intelligence. I still struggle, and I still am very conservative and skeptic about the third phase, which is the risk-benefit assessment in medicines and vaccines, for example, in which the value of peer review assessment is something that is to be considered. And as we know, and we have experience on that, sometimes the same product has different outcomes in terms of the approval in different regions, simply because the medical practice and the context of the health systems are different, and the liability issues involved are also different. So trying to harmonize what is different might be a mistake, but at least for phase 1 and phase 2, I think that we have a good chance in the coming years to conclude this. I'll put the remaining 2 questions in together. So the first one is your views on which areas of international collaboration should be strengthened to enhance the capacities of the regulatory agencies. And the final question is what challenges or lessons have you encountered when applying artificial intelligence and digital technologies to PV? If you have that experience, what are your views on that? So we'll do differently now. We start with Elaine, Sue, and go right, and then we'll do the final 2 on the last one.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rogerio. With regards to the importance of international cooperations, right, to strengthen regulatory systems, I think, yes, this is really crucial in especially in some global emerging topics, as we discussed, AI, right, artificial intelligence, or new technologies or new modalities. It could be also cell and gene therapies, right, which are really innovative and complex therapies that needs this like this global like some sort of like thought leaders and thinking and having international standards would really help, you know, all the countries and the industry to rely on these new topics. And there are already some collaborations, right, among regulators such as Access Consortiums for ATMPs. So they really joined expertise to review a dossier of innovative products. There's also new initiatives related to clinical trials review, I believe, and again, it's they're related to Access Consortium. So there is this increased collaboration initiatives that is happening, but it would be great, I think, to include also other more countries and maybe bigger international regulatory authorities and collaboration thinking think tank.
Thank you. Jinikin?
In terms of the global cooperation activities, I think one practical example from the private sector side, the KPBMA, Korea Pharmaceutical Biopharma Manufacturers Association, facilitates joint training program for regulators and industry professionals from other countries. For instance, the Korean ASEAN Pharmaceutical GMP Inspector Training invites ASEAN regulators and industry experts for factory visit and GMP evaluation workshops. This kind of collaboration helps build a common understanding of GMP standards and promotes trust between regulators and manufacturers across borders. Exactly what RSS aims to achieve, I think. And as part of the AI utilization, as part of PV, pharmacovigilance part, AI and digital technologies are increasingly important already. And the field is relatively well positioned for adoption because the ICH E2 guidelines already provide a harmonized global framework. So this allowed companies to introduce new tools while staying compliant with international standards. We are already applying AI to support the case intake, med-DRA coding, signal detection, and data analysis areas where automation can improve efficiency and accuracy. However, for tasks that require clinical judgment, such as causality assessment or interpreting the context of adverse events, current AI systems still have limitations. So, where AI is a valuable assistive tool, it should be implemented with careful validation and continuous human review to ensure data integrity and regulatory compliance.
Thank you so much. And Ming-Xing.
I think we need to move beyond the simple information sharing. What really matters now is mutual trust and joint review mechanisms among regulators. During global crises like the pandemic, coordinated decisions work far better than isolated actions. So strengthening mutual recognition and collaborative assessments will be really important if possible. And in that sense, the WLA initiative very meaningful. It gives us a trusted global framework that promotes transparency, shared standard, and collective accountability, fully in line with what GHC and WHO are aiming for. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we'll start with our colleague from Biologics and going on this direction then.
First, in terms of AI, actually, I'm working for the clinical development division, but honestly, I have no experience in our division, but our R&D center is using the AI to discover the new materials. Anyhow, the AI have to be, we will very necessary in the future. So I strongly participate in some seminar to how to we will use the AI. So in the future, I also use some AI tools for efficiency our work. In other topic is harmonization for among the countries. I think the necessary to harmonize the process as well as the document requirement will be very helpful to the license of the product. Also, we can contribute to supply the medicines to public health. So it's not easy to harmonize the opinions between the analysts, but I really appreciate the MFDA's effort and other analysts as well.
Thank you. And to conclude.
Okay, the first question is about collaboration, sharing collaboration. I think the most important part of international collaboration is sharing information, especially product efficacy and safety. Because during COVID-19 pandemics, we learned that sharing evidence quickly, especially maybe make big difference on public health decision and keep public confidence. And the strong way to share data is communicate, exchange information on product safety and product efficacy and safety issue and regulatory action is very important. Okay, and about AI. I will answer about AI to PV because I am work at pharmacovigilance part. Okay, I think I will try to use AI for signal detection and prioritization for signal because it's really easy. Maybe it's really important to receive new signal for evaluation another on assessment another's. So we have maybe we have continue to use AI to do this way, and maybe I think important for use AI maybe about standard data and make AI easy to use and training staff to use AI maybe.
Thank you so much. I think that we have completed the panel. Let me just share a personal experience from my side in what we did during the process on the Uppsala Monitoring Center to develop an AI tool that was integrated. And there's a bit of a joke there, but it's a real one. It's not really a joke, it's a real one. I was, as member of the board, as vice chair of the board, I was really surprised to see that in 6 months we had moved from a pilot project to a product, and I wanted to talk directly with the staff that was involved, because when we go there to Uppsala for the management board, we don't have the opportunity to meet everybody. The Uppsala Monitoring Center has around 150 people working every day on the facility, so they called the engineer that was with that process, and for my big surprise, I know the engineer. because the engineer was working in my research institute in Lisbon before I came to WHO. She is a bioengineer, and she was working in our research institute on artificial intelligence applied for manufacturing processes. And I was not aware that she was recruited to UMC, and she has done that. The lesson here is that the use of these tools is a big challenge for regulators and people working on regulatory area in pharmaceutical industry, because we'll be confronted by new communities, new competencies, new skills that will come in our sector, and we'll use what we know to do very well, which is to standardize terminology and to standardize data. We are very good in the regulatory system to do that. And in that respect, that facilitates the work for engineers that are really the specialists for the algorithms and for deep machine learning technologies, because they are not specialists in pharmacovigilance. They don't want to be specialists in pharmacovigilance. They don't need to be specialists in pharmacovigilance. But the challenge will be for us to transmit our corporate culture, our organizational culture, our language in terms of the procedures that we are developing for a new community that is essential and is taking a tremendous stance in our area. To conclude, one of my students a couple of years ago, we started in 2007 in Lisbon a master's in pharmaceutical engineering. It was the first one in Europe. Second one was in Graz in Austria. And one of my students in pharmaceutical engineering was asking me, Prof, do you believe there's still a place for pharmacists in industry in the future? And I told him very honestly, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that we'll have a lot of jobs in industry, in pharmaceutical industry, for people that are specialists in applied mathematics. And I think that this is something also of another challenge in terms of the regulatory capacity, which is the retraining of existing staff in regulatory systems and the need to develop appropriate skills that will have to be challenged with the new tools that we are using right now and will be part of our future. And I will conclude here, and thank you so much for the organizers for having invited me here. Thank you.